Get the unmissable news stories of the day.
This is the Beijing Hour.
Examining the events that impact and shape China and the rest of the world. This is the Beijing Hour, 1 hour of news and information brought to you every weekday. Now here's your host.
Shane Bigham with you on this Friday, July 3rd, 2026. You're listening to the Beijing Hour, coming to you live from the Chinese capital. On today's program, China's expressed willingness to expand cooperation with Denmark as the foreign minister visits Northern Europe. The U.S. and Iran have been trading blame at the UN Security Council over the tense situation in the Strait of Hormuz. And rescuers have pulled a survivor from the rubble in Venezuela 8 days after twin earthquakes struck the country. In business, China's service sector maintained its growth trend through June. In sports, Portugal is among the latest to advance at the World Cup in North America. In culture and entertainment, one of China's oldest embroidery crafts is finding new life in modern fashion. Now the day's top stories. Chinese Foreign Minister Wang says China stands ready to work with Denmark to implement the consensus reached between the two heads of state. In a meeting with his Danish counterpart, Lars Løkke Rasmussen, Wang said China is ready to maintain high-level exchanges with Denmark and strengthen cooperation across various sectors. Rasmussen said bilateral ties are gaining momentum and that Denmark is ready to work with China in many areas. He also reaffirmed the country's commitment to the One China policy. Denmark is the first stop of Wang's tour of the Nordic region. Evangelo Sipsis has more from Copenhagen.
Wang Yi arrived in the Danish capital as China continued its diplomatic outreach across Northern Europe. During the visit, he met Danish Foreign Minister Lars Rasmussen, with both sides looking to strengthen dialogue and expand practical cooperation. From here in Copenhagen, the message is that of engagement. For China, Denmark is an important partner in Northern Europe. For Denmark, China is a key global player in trade, innovation, and green transition. Green development was one of the main areas discussed. China and Denmark already work together on green energy and renewable projects, including clean technology, energy efficiency, and sustainable development. Denmark brings long-standing expertise in wind power and climate policy, while China plays a major role in renewable technologies, clean manufacturing, and the global energy transition. The visit also included a walk through Copenhagen's Tivoli Gardens, one of the city's best-known landmarks, combining culture with diplomacy. Trade and investment were also on the agenda, with both sides looking at ways to support stable economic ties and explore new opportunities. For China and Denmark, this meeting was a chance to build on already existing ties and look at ways to enhance cooperation. Here in Copenhagen, the focus was on steady diplomacy, keep channels open, strengthening dialogue, and turning shared priorities into practical results.
That was Evangelo Sipsis reporting. Upholding peace, development, cooperation, and mutual benefit has long been one of China's core principles. International officials and experts say the concept of building a community with a shared future for humanity offers an important inspiration for the world today. Former Serbian Prime Minister Miloš Vučević says what stands out most is China's willingness to share its gains with the world.
Under the leadership of the Communist Party of China, both the Chinese nation and its people have achieved remarkable progress. As the party celebrates its 105th anniversary, I would like to extend congratulations to President Xi and all the party members. We truly admire what China has accomplished, especially in lifting people out of poverty and driving modernization. The progress in tech, education, space, and defense has been nothing short of impressive. But perhaps what stands out most is that China is willing to share these gains with the rest of the world.
Fundación Cátedra China Executive President Marta Montoro says China helps bring different civilizations into the framework of the Global Civilization Initiative.
These policies are vitally important in areas such as international cooperation. They give a voice to countries that were once left out of the conversation and bring different civilizations into the framework of the Global Civilization Initiative. It is a clear affirmation that civilizations should not be set against one another, but should work together in harmony.
Secretary General Gonzalo Garcia of the Communist Youth of Chile says the Communist Party of China contributes to pushing toward a multipolar world.
En la última década, desde que asume Xi Jinping como presidente también.
A key part of the development process under the leadership of the CPC is moving beyond a unipolar world and pushing toward a multipolar one, and at the same time, helping the global south grow through platforms like BRICS. China is always about mutual benefit, respecting sovereignty, and letting each country choose its own path. The focus is on win-win outcomes based on shared interests, not on threats or economic coercion. These principles, I believe, offer important lessons for how different countries should engage with one another.
In his speech at a gathering celebrating the party's 105th founding anniversary, General Secretary Xi Jinping of the CPC Central Committee called for continued efforts to build a community with a shared future for humanity. He said it's important to uphold peace, development, cooperation, and mutual benefit, and promote the common values of humanity. Ma Shansheng is one of the recipients of this year's July 1st medal, the CPC's highest honor. He spent over 30 years on the front lines of grassroots mediation in Chongqing, resolving more than 2,500 disputes and developing a set of working methods that have become a model for community governance. Xie Chang has more.
In a residential community in Chongqing's Liangjiang New area, Ma Shanxiang is seen mediating a dispute over the installation of an elevator in an old apartment building. A resident who had previously declined to pay installation costs later sought to make a retroactive payment, which led to disagreement among neighbors over fairness and participation. For Ma, grassroots mediation is not only about resolving procedures, but also about addressing emotions and balancing interests among residents. Over decades of experience, he has developed his own approach, often focusing first on easing tensions through direct communication and presence at the scene.
Most grassroots disputes are resolved through emotional engagement and appropriate adjustment of interests. Such conflicts are common at the community level, but every small matter is closely related to people's well-being.
Ma recalls a construction site dispute in which residents were left waiting on site while developers were ushered indoors to a comfortable meeting room. He chose to stand with residents staying on site to mediate the issue. Within a short time, the dispute was resolved.
I stood with the residents under the sun while the developers were in an air-conditioned office. I chose to stay on site with the residents and continue mediation. This case shows that we must always stand on the people's side.
Today, Ma's experience has been systematized into the Old Ma working method. His studio has delivered more than 8,000 training sessions across China. In Chongqing, more than 3,000 Xiao Ma mediation workstations have been established, forming a growing grassroots governance network that continues to advance the Feng Qiao experience in the new era.
That was Xie Chang reporting. Coming up, the U.S. and Iran continue to blame each other for tensions in the Strait of Hormuz.
Retirement. Is it really the end of the road? China doesn't seem to think so. The country has unveiled its first nationwide rules to protect overage workers, including eligible foreign employees. Why now? Will the new protections encourage people to work longer or make employers think twice? And how does China's approach compare with other aging societies? Join us at this week's Chat Lounge as we explore what these landmark rules could mean for the future of work in China and beyond. Listen wherever you get your podcasts and on CGTN Radio.
We're at 9 minutes past the hour. Well, tensions remain high between the U.S. and Iran as they traded blame at a UN Security Council meeting over the Strait of Hormuz. U.S. Ambassador Mike Waltz has accused Tehran of ignoring their memorandum of understanding by launching attacks on cargo ships.
Just 2 weeks ago, the United States signed a memorandum of understanding with Iran. Its most basic premise, the Strait's international waterways must be open. Attacks on civilian shipping must stop. And we're here today because Iran ignored that.
Iran says the continued presence of U.S. military aircraft in the Strait of Hormuz endangers regional security. Tehran warns that any U.S. interference in the strait would trigger a decisive and swift response. Iran says all ships must follow designated routes for safe passage. The dispute comes after indirect talks concluded in Doha, with the two sides failing to make significant progress on a peace deal. Permanent Representative Amir Saeed Iravani says Iran remains committed to implementing its MOU with the U.S. on the condition that Washington fulfills its obligations.
Iran is the main victim of the wars of aggression launched by the United States and Israeli regime. The role of the victims and aggressor must not be reversed. No Security Council resolution can deprive a member state of its inherent right of self-defense under the UN Charter. Iran remains fully committed to implementing the MOU, including its provisions concerning the Strait of Hormuz, provided that the United States faithfully fulfill its own obligations.
Tehran and Washington signed the MOU on ending the war in the region on all fronts, including Lebanon, on June 18th. China's urged restraint after renewed military exchanges between the U.S. and Iran. During an emergency UN Security Council meeting, Permanent Representative Fu Cong called on all parties to avoid threatening rhetoric and military adventurism and return to dialogue.
中方欢迎美伊在巴基斯坦、卡塔尔协助下
China welcomes follow-up consultations on the Memorandum of Understanding between the United States and Iran, with the assistance of Pakistan and Qatar, as well as the consensus reached on the mechanism for the next round of talks. Facts have repeatedly shown that force and power politics cannot solve problems. Dialogue and negotiation are the right choice. With the joint efforts of all parties, the conflict has finally turned toward dialogue. But the ceasefire remains fragile, and whether peace can truly be achieved will depend on the joint efforts of all parties.
China also put forward 3 proposals on the next steps. It said that the full ceasefire should be consolidated, that the U.S. and Iran should show sincerity, implement the Memorandum of Understanding, and maintain the momentum for negotiations. China also called for the early restoration of normal navigation through the Strait of Hormuz, saying that safe and free passage is important for global supply chains. It added that countries in the Middle East, including the Gulf region, should not become an arena for major power rivalry. China said it'll continue working with the international community to promote political solutions and support peace and stability in the region. Pakistani Foreign Ministry says the U.S. and Iran have agreed to continue discussions after the funeral procession of former Iranian Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei. International delegates participated in a farewell ceremony for Khamenei in Tehran on Friday. The funeral ceremonies will begin on Saturday and conclude with his burial in his birthplace, Mashhad, on Thursday. Khamenei was killed in a U.S.-Israeli strike on February 28th. The 6-day mourning ceremonies will take place across major Iranian cities. An Iranian Foreign Ministry spokesperson says officials from more than 100 countries will attend the funeral ceremonies. Ehsan Kevani has more from Tehran.
Well, it is expected that between 15 and 20 million people would attend the funeral ceremonies only in the capital, Tehran, on Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. We had reports that the late Supreme Leader's body arrived in Tehran's Grand Musalla. This is the venue in central Tehran where important religious ceremonies are held with the capacity of dozens of thousands of mourners. We see Tehran's streets covered in black with thousands of stations in the streets to provide service for mourners. The official ceremony will start on Saturday, and after 3 days of funeral processions and mourning in Tehran, there will be 1 day of funeral in the religious city of Qom, some 130 kilometers south of Tehran. Then on Wednesday, Karbala city in Iraq will host a funeral procession. And finally, on Thursday, July the 9th, we will have the burial ceremony in the northeastern holy city of Mashhad, which is considered as the most sacred place for Shia Muslims in Iran.
That was Ehsan Kevani reporting. A late Iranian Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei was in power for over 30 years. Tsenze Yuan has more about his life.
Born in 1939 in the northeastern Iranian city of Mashhad, Ali Khamenei rose to prominence as a cleric and revolutionary following the 1979 Islamic Revolution. the second son in a devout clerical family. He chose early to follow in his father's footsteps. At the age of 12, he began formal religious studies at a Shia seminary known as Hazar. He continued his study in the holy city of Qom, one of the most important religious centers for Shia Islam. There, he studied under prominent clerics, under Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini, whose teachings and political vision profoundly shaped his future. Inspired by his predecessor's revolutionary movement, Khomeini became actively involved in the opposition to Iran's monarchy. His activism led to repeated arrests and imprisonment by the Shah's security forces, and he was eventually sent into exile. After the 1979 Islamic Revolution, Ali Khamenei emerged as a central figure in a new Islamic republic. He served as Iran's third president from 1981 to 1989, guiding the country through the turbulent years of the Iran-Iraq War. In 1981, he survived an assassination attempt that left him with permanent paralysis in his right arm. 8 years later, following the death of Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini, Ali Khamenei was appointed Iran's supreme leader by the clerical body, the Assembly of Experts.
We should shed tears of blood for an Islamic society in which the possibility of someone like me serving as supreme leader is raised.
As supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei held ultimate authority over Iran's political, military, and religious institutions, shaping the nation's trajectory for 37 years. His leadership defined Iran's political direction for decades. For more than 3 decades, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei stood at the apex of Iran's power structure, shaping its domestic course and foreign policy at moments of profound regional change. Under his rule, Iran became a major regional force, asserting influence across the Middle East through allied militias and foreign policy, while maintaining a governance system that centralized power in the clerical establishment. Khamenei remained resolute in his opposition to Western influence and unwavering in his vision of the Islamic Republic, even as international tensions with the United States and its allies escalated. His death marks the end of an era for the Islamic Republic and opens a new and uncertain chapter in Iran's political future.
That was Sensei Wang on the life of the late Iranian supreme leader. The war has created a ripple effect across the Iranian economy, leaving families struggling to keep up with rapidly rising costs. Sapir Saremi has more from Tehran.
Across Iran, economic pressure is mounting. The cost of essentials continues to climb, and families are struggling to keep pace with the rapidly changing financial landscape. Last year, with 300,000 tomans, you could buy 3 chickens, but the same amount today barely buys 1. That means ordinary Iranians' purchasing power has fallen to 1/3 of what it was before. Some may argue that Iranian salaries have also increased, but the point is that the average wage growth in Iran has been around 20%. Today, to better understand this problem, I will speak with ordinary Iranians and also an economist. For shopkeepers, the reality is a daily struggle to keep up with shifting price tags. The economic crisis is now reshaping Iranian culture and family life as the cost of basic hospitality becomes unsustainable for many. It's a complex mix of structural policy changes and regional volatility. Analysts point to a chain of events starting well before the recent fighting.
The origin of this issue stems from several different factors. Before the outbreak of the war, there was the policy of price liberalization and the removal of subsidies, which led to the elimination of the preferential currency rate for all goods. Instead, ration cards were provided to all the people of Iran. This caused inflation. After that, there were security and political issues, namely the events of January 2026 and, subsequently, the Ramadan War. These factors led to inflation and price hikes, especially for essential goods.
While international headlines often focus on nuclear energy and missile defense, here on the ground the narrative is much quieter and far more urgent. For ordinary Iranians, the primary struggle isn't political posturing. It's simply making ends meet.
That was Saper Saremi in Iran. Coming up, rescuers have found a survivor after 8 days in the quake rubble in Venezuela.
Discover the realities and responses to our changing climate with Climate Watch. Uncover critical issues such as the Masai Mara's disrupted wildebeest migration and the drop in the Panama Canal's water levels. Delve into solutions for a sustainable future. Tune in to Climate Watch on your favorite podcast platform. Become more eco-conscious and take action to protect our planet.
20 minutes past the hour. Search and rescue efforts are continuing in quake-hit Venezuela, with people still hopeful after a man was pulled out alive from the ruins of a building in La Guaira after 8 days. The powerful twin earthquakes that hit Venezuela last week had killed nearly 2,600 people as of late Thursday, leaving over 180 buildings collapsed. Authorities are creating a $200 million reconstruction fund. Stephen Gibbs has details from Caracas.
No less than 7 nations involved in that rescue, because it was a 5-day affair and people had to work in rotation and several tunnels were built to get to him. That man, Hernan Gil, he really is a form of hope in many ways for this nation, because everyone here, or thousands of people, have been watching that attempt to get him out and also have been lifted by his extraordinary sense of decorum as he was being saved. For 5 days, as I said, people were in contact with him and he repeatedly said, look, don't go to too much trouble, don't put yourself at risk, I'm fine. He even said, please don't tell my wife I'm alive in case I don't make it out alive.
As the days passed, we gained access to him and gave him water. This task lasted nearly 3 days to give him the first sip of water.
I feel happy and relieved because I know they're with him in there. They're taking very good care of him. They're keeping him hydrated, and we're waiting for him to come out.
The rescuers really do think it's very unlikely there'll be more miracles, as they put it here, like his. Well, I'm definitely like one of the lucky ones. I live in a building that was badly shaken but survived the earthquake. You know, in terms of the mood of the capital here, Caracas, it's very gloomy, of course. There's actually a 7-day period of mourning going on, but that isn't really necessary. Many businesses are shut because they don't want to do business. They want to focus on other things. Lots of people are sort of off for grieving purposes. You know, when you have more than 15,000 people homeless, that means that everyone kind of knows everyone who's at least lost their home. And many people, unfortunately, know people who have died or families of people who have died. Now, one of the consequences of that in this city is everyone wants to help. They want to do something that makes them feel useful. So there have been these extraordinary displays of people trying to gather anything they can that they think might help the people down there by the coast that have been so badly affected. And in fact, there is a bit of a downside to that. And the authorities have said, look, this needs to be much more organized. If you have a whole lot of people going down just to give toys or whatever to those that are suffering, it comes out of a good place of people's heart, but it actually can complicate things. So a very, very difficult situation, changed lives all over this city, and a very changed city and country, of course, for the weeks and months ahead.
That was Stephen Gibbs in Venezuela. A trial aiming to treat the Ebola outbreak in the Democratic Republic of the Congo is underway, with the first patient enrolled. The trial aims to evaluate an antibody treatment in combination with an antiviral drug. WHO Director General Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus says the trial will include more than 1,000 patients and could take months to complete.
The partners trial will evaluate the monoclonal antibody MBP134 and the antiviral drug remdesivir alone and in combination. The study is being coordinated by DRC's National Institute for Biomedical Research, supported by a coalition of partners, including WHO, and conducted in close cooperation with the affected communities. Patients who enroll in the trial will receive comprehensive supportive care and close follow-up. We're also working to ensure they have access to the 2 drugs should they prove safe and efficacious in the trial.
DRC says it's so far confirmed over 1,400 Ebola cases, including over 440 deaths. The Africa CDC warns that the ongoing outbreak remains serious, with the virus spreading more aggressively than previous outbreaks. Nurseries are in place next to Ebola treatment centers in Bunia to provide care for children whose parents are receiving treatment. Sharon Barunga has more.
When a parent is admitted to an Ebola treatment center, the impact is felt by the entire family. Beyond the medical emergency comes another pressing concern. Who will care for the children during a parent's isolation? In Bunia, facilities have been set up to provide temporary care for children whose parents have no one else to look after them, ensuring they remain safe while families face the uncertainty of Ebola.
When a mother arrives at the Ebola treatment center, no one is available to care for her child. We bring the child to the nursery. The child stays there until the mother is discharged, whether she tests positive or negative. Once she leaves the treatment center, we reunite the child with the family so they can return to their community together.
The nurseries provide more than food and shelter. For many children, separation from their parents brings fear, anxiety, and confusion.
We have psychologists assigned to support children in the nursery who are experiencing emotional distress. We cared for 3 siblings whose parents were both in the treatment center. They developed psychological difficulties, but through psychosocial support and counseling, they received the care they needed.
UNICEF says protecting children during an Ebola outbreak means looking beyond the virus itself. Epidemics can disrupt education, healthcare, and family life, leaving children especially vulnerable.
Children have unique needs and are affected in unique ways. And actually, the impact of a crisis like this can be across a huge number of areas, well beyond those people who are infected in particular. It can affect schooling, it can affect regular health. We know children, for instance, particularly under 5, are vulnerable to diarrhea diseases, to malaria, to other diseases that often have very similar symptoms to Ebola. So it's important that the health services, education services keep in mind children and make sure there's no indirect impacts of a response that could hit them actually even further than the numbers who are infected.
Since opening, the nursery beside Bunia's Ebola treatment center has cared for 16 children and can accommodate up to 20 at a time. Today, 1 child remains, waiting to be placed with a foster family after losing both parents to the disease. As the Ebola response continues, these nurseries stand as a reminder that protecting children means more than treating illness. It also means preserving safety, emotional well-being, and hope for the future.
That was Sharon Barunga reporting. Record-breaking temperatures are spreading across the eastern U.S., impacting 163 million Americans. 46 million are under heat alerts. Washington, D.C. is set to reach 40 degrees Celsius on Friday, while New York City's activated emergency plans for its worst heat wave in over a decade. The U.S. National Weather Service warns that the perceived temperature could rise to 46 degrees. Meanwhile, Peru has placed several regions under a 60-day state of emergency amid prolonged El Niño threats projected to last into next year. In Europe, France has already seen nearly 7,000 wildfires this summer, with an estimated 1,000 heat deaths. Spain recorded more than 1,000 heat-related deaths in June, the highest number since records began in 2015. At least 40 people have died and several others were injured after an overcrowded passenger bus plunged into a rocky ravine in southwestern Pakistan. Officials say the speeding bus lost control early Friday in the remote area of Danish. Authorities are still investigating the cause of that crash. At 29 past the hour. Beijing expecting thunder showers overnight and through tomorrow. A low of 24, it's up to 36 on Saturday. Shanghai will see moderate rainfall through tomorrow. A low of 25 and a high of 32. Chongqing's getting a light rainfall tonight, becoming overcast tomorrow. A low of 23 and a high of 31. Nanchang will be cloudy tonight and tomorrow. A low of 26 and a high of 33. Lhasa is getting clouds overnight, and those continue through the day tomorrow. A low of 14 and a high of 28. Elsewhere in Asia, Islamabad is getting clouds tonight. It becomes sunny tomorrow, a low of 27 and a high of 39 for Saturday. Vientiane will get heavy rainfall through tomorrow, a low of 25 and a high of 31. Phnom Penh's getting moderate rainfall tonight and tomorrow, a low of 25 and a high of 28 degrees Celsius. It's time for a short break. So far this hour, China's expressed willingness to expand cooperation with Denmark as the foreign minister visits Northern Europe. The U.S. and Iran have been trading blame at the UN Security Council over the tense situation in the Strait of Hormuz. And rescuers have pulled a survivor from the rubble in Venezuela 8 days after the twin earthquakes that struck the country. Shane Bigham with you. Stay with us here on the Beijing Hour.
From the refreshing cup of tea that starts your morning to the paper that you write on, the roots of many familiar parts of modern life can be traced back to ancient ideas. Join us on Made in Ancient China and discover how ideas born millennia ago became some of the world's greatest treasures. Made in Ancient China brings you stories of human ambition, inspiration, and connection. Now available on all major podcast platforms.
Shh, listen up. Can you hear the heartbeat of our world? It's vibrant and pulsating with the essence of life itself. From the stem of trees to the gurgle of rivers. From the silent strength of mountains to the icy whispers of glaciers. Even the solid ground beneath our feet. Right there, in the midst of all, beats the heart of humanity. What if those other heartbeats were to stop? Would ours keep on ticking?
Examining the events that impact and shape China and the rest of the world. This is the Beijing Hour, 1 hour of news and information brought to you every weekday. Now here's your host.
Shane Bigham with you on this Friday. Still to come. In business, China's service sector maintained its growth trend through June. In sports, Portugal is among the latest to advance at the World Cup in North America. In culture and entertainment, one of China's oldest embroidery crafts is finding new life in modern fashion. To contact us, you can email radio@cgtn.com or follow our X account @CGTN Radio. You're also welcome to subscribe to our Substack newsletter Beyond Beijing for the world's biggest stories, along with sharp insights and exclusive analysis. But now check out the day's headlines. Namibian President Netumbo Nandi-Ndaitwah will pay a state visit to China from Sunday to July the 11th. The visit's at the invitation of Chinese President Xi Jinping. Beijing has hit back at Washington over allegations of illegal fishing, calling a recent U.S. report naked political manipulation. Foreign Ministry spokesperson Guo Jiakun rejected the U.S. National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration's findings, stating they lack factual and international legal basis. Guo defended China's record, highlighting its zero-tolerance policy toward illegal fishing. The spokesperson accused the U.S. of having its own deplorable record on marine conservation, citing long-standing over-quota tuna fishing violations in the Pacific. China's called on all parties to leverage AI to fully implement the United Nations Security Council's resolution on accessibility for the full enjoyment of all human rights. China's permanent representative to the UN office at Geneva delivered a joint statement on behalf of 65 countries at a human rights session. The document outlined proposals including adhering to a development-oriented approach and promoting AI for good and for all. Iran's preparing several days of state funeral ceremonies for Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. The funerals begin in Tehran over the weekend. It'll continue with large public processions in Qom and Mashhad next week, followed by additional ceremonies in Iraq. Authorities are calling on people to take part in the mourning and are organizing transport, accommodation, and food for large crowds. Officials say the events are intended to show national unity. U.S. and Israeli strikes at the start of the conflict killed the former leader. His son, Mojtaba Khamenei, is playing a key role in the transition. South African President Cyril Ramaphosa hopes researchers can develop a vaccine for the Bundibugyo strain of Ebola by the end of the year.
I do share Dr. Kaseya's hope that we should be able, as we work very hard, to even have a vaccine for this variant of Ebola by the end of this year. We are hopeful that the virus will remain contained and will not threaten other regions of our continent or indeed the world.
Ramaphosa met Congolese President Felix Tshisekedi and regional health leaders to discuss the Ebola outbreak in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. He urged all parties to agree to a ceasefire so healthcare workers can safely reach affected communities and deliver medical supplies.
We need a ceasefire in the area where Ebola has broken out, where there is still war that is raging. This is needed to allow the safe passage of humanitarian assistance, healthcare workers as they work to curb the ravages of this disease, and the medical supplies that need to be transported to those who are affected.
Ramaphosa pledged $13.5 million to support Congo's Ebola response. The outbreaks infected more than 1,400 people and killed over 400. He also said African leaders and international partners have mobilized around $1.5 billion to fight the outbreak. Extreme heat is sweeping across much of the eastern United States ahead of the 4th of July holiday weekend, forcing some communities to cancel or scale back Independence Day celebrations. At the Franklin Park Zoo in Boston, staff are helping animals stay cool with shaded areas, misting systems, and frozen treats. The National Weather Service says dangerous heat will continue across much of the central and eastern U.S. through Friday. High humidity will make it feel even hotter. You're listening to the Beijing Hour. Coming up in business, China's service sector maintained its growth trend through June.
The Beijing Hour, your window on China and the rest of the world.
36 past the hour. With business now, here's Wang.
Thank you, Shane. Stock markets on the Chinese mainland closed higher on Friday. The Shanghai Composite was up around 0.4%. The Shenzhen Component gained more than 0.6%. Aerospace equipment and precious metal shares were among the top gainers. In Hong Kong, the Hang Seng Index rose almost 1.3%. Japan's Nikkei increased nearly 1.5%. China's service sector maintained robust growth in June. The private PMI reading stayed firmly in expansion territory despite a slight pullback from the previous month. The rating dog China Services PMI came in at 54.1 last month, easing from May's 54.4, but still marking the third highest reading in nearly 3 years. A new export business grew at its fastest pace this year, while employment expanding at the strongest rate since July 2024. Selling prices also returned to growth after 2 months of contraction. The composite PMI, which covers manufacturing and services, registered 53.6. It was down from 54 in May, but remained in expansion territory for the 13th consecutive month. Now, for more on the services sector, Vivian Nunes spoke with Liu Zhiqin, a senior research fellow with Renmin University of China.
The National Bureau of Statistics recently started including total retail sales of consumer goods and services in its monthly economic data for the first time. What's the significance of officially tracking services in this way?
I should say that this action is very important because in order to help China's economic development in a healthy, sustainable and predictable way for further development. This is a very important figure for the market. For the rest of the world, we can know much more facts on how to develop their own business. In 5 aspects, I should say, that's behind this action. One is that is for the market governance in order to have a better control. And the second is also for macro policy regulation. And the third is for the industrial restructuring. And the fourth is also very important for the further opening up. And the last one is very important, is also for the expansion of the domestic consumption. These figures can help all the policy makers and also entrepreneurs to make the right decision.
And in the first 5 months of this year, China's total services imports and exports rose 6% year on year, with particularly strong growth in travel and knowledge-intensive services. What are the key factors behind this momentum?
I think this momentum has shown that the China's economy developed very well, is with a very strong powerhouse in China. As we know that the resilience and the more efforts will be given to develop the consumption market. In this way, that also we can see that the import and the export business can as a booster for the economic development, because this can have a more connection with the external market and also for the domestic market, because we have already adopted a policy of dual circulation, that's internal and external. By both sides, a combination, I think this is very important to see the figures for retail goods and also service industry, because this is a very important figure as we always understood. This figure does not include the traditional one, for instance, education, medical, and aging people services. But it's very important for the government to know the real facts, and especially for their more proactive and supportive policies to be worked out. This is a very important step.
That was Senior Research Fellow Liu Zhiqin at Renmin University of China. China is putting 200 billion yuan, or roughly $29.4 billion into special treasury bonds to support equipment upgrades this year. The nation's top economic regulator rolled out the funding through its major programs for upgrading equipment and trading in old consumer goods. The 200 billion yuan comes in 3 batches and supports around 1,100 projects across 22 sectors. It will provide strong support for accelerating industrial upgrading, promoting green development, and improving people's welfare. Data shows that investment in the purchase of equipment and machinery grew 9.3% in the first 5 months of the year, accounting for 17.5% of total investment, up 2.2 points from the same period last year. The National Development and Reform Commission says it will work with other departments to fully leverage the effectiveness of central funding. China plans to recognize 12 new occupations as the country's rapidly evolving economy continues to generate new forms of employment. The new roles include digital twin engineers, embodied intelligence robot technicians, and sports data analysts. According to the Ministry of Human Resources and Social Security, the country will also add a number of new specialities under existing occupations, including low-altitude logistics operators, artificial intelligence agent developers, and new energy vehicle inspectors. The move reflects China's efforts to adapt its workforce to an economic transformation marked by the swift expansion of emerging industries, the widespread application of digital technologies, and the growing importance of the service sector. Since the year 2019, the ministry has released 7 batches of new occupations, with the total number now standing at 110. The ministry says it will incorporate the newly proposed occupations into the country's official occupational classification under a public consultation process. Practitioners of these occupations will then become eligible for national policies and support measures. In Beijing, every square meter counts. Now, spaces that once went unnoticed are drawing fresh attention. The city is no stranger to world-famous landmarks, but increasingly visitors and locals alike are looking for something beyond the usual sightseeing, and they're finding it one floor up. Yu Baokun takes us to the rooftops.
Everyone knows Beijing from the street. The bustle, the traffic, the crowd. But these days, more people are heading one floor up. This old bookstore has stood in central Beijing for decades. Locals drop by for coffee, reading, or a quiet break. The owner renovated a few years ago to make room for more readers.
Our bookstore was quite small. During a 2023 renovation, we added a rooftop terrace, expanding the space from 130 to 260 square meters.
Well, hidden in Beijing's one of the busiest neighborhoods, this bookstore has found an unexpected draw. Its second-floor terrace.
The terrace now hosts reading sessions, flower arranging workshops, and small events, attracting a whole new crowd.
With the breeze outside, you feel much closer to nature.
It's definitely a different atmosphere from being inside. Sitting here and looking out at the historic buildings just feels wonderful.
Today, the rooftop is just as popular as the shelves below.
The Dongcheng government's campaign to promote terrace businesses has brought in customers who come specifically for the terraces. We've also seen more young visitors.
Beijing's famous landmarks aren't going anywhere, but what's changing now is how the city is using existing spaces, where terraces like that are giving visitors a fresh experiences and while creating new business models for local shops.
The Dongcheng district government has linked more than 300 terrace spaces along the central axis with hotels and tourist sites. Partnerships with platforms like Meituan and Ctrip are helping draw more foot traffic. From bookstores to restaurants,
terraces are breathing new life into old spaces. In a city where every square meter counts, even a rooftop can become a destination in its own right.
There was Yu Bo-kun on Beijing's rooftop economy. And finally, data from the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics shows the country's job growth cooled in June. Non-farm payrolls from the month rose by a seasonally adjusted 57,000, fewer than May's 129,000 jobs added and short of economist forecast of 115,000. The jobless rate dropped to 4.2% from 4.3% a month earlier. The labor force participation rate slumped 0.3 points to 61.5%, the lowest since March 2021. The drop contributed to the decline in the unemployment rate. Average hourly wages increased 0.3% on a monthly basis and 3.5% from a year prior. Some economists say the wage situation underscores a weaker labor job market. At the same time, leisure and hospitality shared 61,000 jobs, highlighting that seasonal hiring was slower than usual. Meanwhile, private payroll firm ADP also says U.S. firms added fewer employees than forecast in June. Private sector jobs rose by 98,000 from the previous month, a drop from May's 122,000 and less than predictions of 110,000.
Thank you very much. That's Wang with Business. You're listening to the Beijing Hour, and coming up in sports, Portugal is among the latest to advance at the World Cup in North America.
Sideline Story brings you all things sports related. The hottest topics, latest events, juiciest stories, all with a very personal take. Subscribe to Sideline Story Podcast for heated sports discussions covering events that are happening in China and around the world.
47 past now, and turning to sports. Here's Yang.
Thank you, Shane. At the FIFA World Cup, Portugal has beaten Croatia 2-1 in the dramatic last 32 encounter in Toronto. Cristiano Ronaldo's tournament is still alive while Luka Modric bids farewell. Croatia took the lead early in the second half before Portugal responded with Ronaldo converting from the penalty spot after a video review confirmed a foul in the box. Gonçalo Ramos then struck deep into stoppage time to put Portugal ahead. A late Croatia equalizer was eventually ruled out following another video check for offside, sealing a 2-1 victory for Portugal in a match dominated by late drama and video review decisions. After the match, Croatia captain Luka Modric reflected on his side's exit.
With our heads held high, given how we played, especially in the second half, we deserve more. But it simply wasn't meant to be today. It didn't go our way. And some of those situations, I think, if it had been the other way around, I don't know if it would have been caught the same way. But anyway, it is what it is. We move on. We can't turn back time now.
Portugal captain Cristiano Ronaldo said his team will now turn their focus to the next round.
Of course, now it's about resting well. We know it's going to be a battle, but that's what we wanted. We wanted to move forward. And yes, game by game, trying to improve, trying to give my maximum always. Little by little, I think the team has been improving. Today we played a good game.
Now for the game analysis, here's Tianyu in the studio. Here's the question. Portugal survived an incredible battle with Croatia, but did they actually convince you?
Well, not really. I mean, Portugal are through, but they didn't look convincing. Croatia created plenty of chances and had 3 goals ruled out for offside, so this could have gone the other way. And I still think Portugal have tactical issues. Their left side with Nuno Mendes and Rafael Leao is dangerous, but Croatia defended so compactly that Leao had little space to run into. And on the right, João Cancelo and Pedro Neto struggled to get crosses in, and Portugal lacked variety in attack. And they showed great character to come back, but I think they will need a much better performance against Spain. So I would say they will have to improve both defensively and in possession if they want to reach the quarterfinals.
Right. Meantime, Spain continued its strong start to the World Cup with a commanding 3-0 victory over Austria in Los Angeles to book their place in the last 16. The 2010 champions, widely tipped as one of the tournament's favorites, extended their unbeaten defensive run while producing another composed attacking display, with Mikel Oyarzabal scoring twice in a 3-0 win. Pedro Porro also got on the score sheet with his first international goal as Spain controlled the match from start to finish. After the game, Spain forward Lamine Yamal said he was delighted with the team's progress.
I'm very happy, above all because of the team's qualification, which was the most important thing. We all left the hotel thinking that we wanted to go to Dallas and play in the round of 16. Little by little, I'm starting to feel like myself again, making the runs I need to make, taking on defenders, everything. I'm very happy for the team above all, and for Unai Simon as well, and I want to congratulate them too.
Spain will now face Portugal in the round of 16. Now, Tianyu, Spain looked outstanding in their 3-0 win over Austria, and have they now established themselves as the team to beat at this World Cup?
Yeah, I think they're certainly one of the strongest contenders. I mean, Spain look incredibly balanced. They dominate possession, create chances from different areas, and they defend extremely well once they lose the ball. And now they're not just relying on Lamine Yamal. Oyarzabal scored twice, Cucurella created decent chances, and they're getting goals from all over the pitch. But that said, Portugal will present a much tougher challenge. Nuno Mendes has already shown he can match up well against Yamal, so that battle between them will be fascinating. And Spain deserve to be favorites, but Portugal still have the quality to make it a very close game.
That was Tianyu with the game analysis. Switzerland has booked its place in the round of 16 after a 2-0 victory over Algeria. Briel and Embolo opened the scoring in the 10th minute, finishing from close range after a low cross from Yohan Manzambi. Dan and Ndoye then doubled lead just 48 seconds into the second half, capitalizing on defensive hesitation to secure a comfortable win for the Europeans. The result sees Switzerland advance with confidence while Algeria exits the tournament. Switzerland will face either Colombia or Ghana in the round of 16 on Tuesday in Vancouver. Cape Verde will be chasing one of the biggest shocks in football history when it faces Argentina in Miami on Friday. The island nation, the smallest ever to reach the World Cup knockout stage, has captured global attention after going unbeaten in the group phase, finishing runners-up in their group ahead of former champions Uruguay. While few are giving them much chance against the defending champions, Cape Verde head coach Pedro Lito Brito says his side will not be overwrought.
As a team, we have our own strategy, and it's not just talk. We have a plan for facing Argentina. We showed that during qualification against some very tough teams as well. We're here on merit. We enjoy the 3 matches we have played. We can go out there without fear, facing our opponents head-on, and believe we have a chance to win games. Once again, we know the quality of our opponent, but we have our dream, and we're sticking with it.
Cape Verde's remarkable run has been led in part by veteran goalkeeper Vosinia, as the team now prepares for its historic clash against Argentina in the knockouts.
All right, thank you very much. That's Yang Guang with sports. You're listening to the Beijing Hour, and coming up in culture and entertainment, one of China's oldest embroidery crafts is finding new life in modern fashion.
Post Plus, a selection of the best podcasts in China, covering history, customs, music, literature, and in-depth dialogues. Find your way to a wealth of Chinese culture and thinking, all on Post Plus.
53 past now, turning to culture and entertainment. From imperial ateliers to international runways, one of China's oldest crafts is finding new life. Fashion designer Lan Yu's transforming Su embroidery from a museum artifact into something living, moving, and worn. Zheng Chuning has more.
It begins with a single thread. China's cultural heritage Su embroidery craft has been passed down for generations. Now, designer Lan Yu is taking that tradition and reimagining it, not as something to be kept behind glass, but as something to be worn.
I visit many museums and spend time observing traditional crafts, and I've started to realize that what survives today has already been filtered by time. What people no longer use has simply faded away. So, we don't want these crafts to exist only behind glass. The best way to preserve it is to wear it.
To understand this transformation, we need to look back. With a history of over 2,000 years, Su embroidery is one of China's most renowned embroidery traditions. Known for its remarkable precision, its subtle shifts in color, and its extraordinary range of stitches. It is a craft that demands both patience and control. Wow, this is beautiful. I love it. And when you touch it, it's not flat. There's a lot of texture. And what I really like is the ship, with both kind of elegance of Chinese traditional qipao and the clean cut and clean structure of Western style pencil dressing gowns. So it doesn't feel traditional in a strict way, but a more fashionable and modern way. And what begins here doesn't stay here. Lan Yu's designs have reached audiences far beyond China, bringing this craft into a global conversation. But taking tradition beyond its origins is never without challenges.
The hardest challenge is actually breaking through cultural barriers. Before this, Parisians tended to believe that French haute couture represented the pinnacle of craftsmanship. So, as a form of craftsmanship coming from outside, how do you define it and how do you present and promote it is the key.
Lan said, in the end, telling China's story isn't about speaking louder, it's about being understood. It means telling stories people can connect with and expressing beauty that resonates at first glance.
That was Zhang Chunying reporting. The Jiangsu Book Fairs opened in the city of Suzhou, bringing together more than 400 publishing and distribution organizations. The event in East China will also launch over 150 reading promotion activities. It'll run through Monday. Organizers say an additional 800 publishers and distributors are taking part in the online section, showcasing more than 200,000 titles, as the fair aims to promote public reading for audiences of all ages. Literary sessions are a key highlight, with publishers such as Jiangsu Phoenix Literature and Beijing October Literature hosting book launches and author talks. The fair also places strong emphasis on young readers, with about half of the 150 on-site activities designed for children, parents, and students. Popular children's authors such as Shen Shishi and Yang Hongying are hosting interactive sessions and storytelling events. The second Shanghai International Game and Animation Month is opened. The event runs for nearly 70 days this year, and it's almost double last year's duration. It aims to promote China's gaming and animation industry while supporting the development of globally recognized Chinese IPs. Organizers say the program brings together gaming, esports, animation, digital art, and interactive entertainment, with major cultural and commercial activities taking place. 9 districts in the city have jointly launched a network of themed sub-venues, turning the city into a large immersive entertainment space. Highlights include upgraded multi-exhibition passes, pop-up IP events, and brand collaborations across shopping districts and cultural landmarks. We're at 57 past the hour. Beijing getting thunder showers overnight and through tomorrow. The low's 24. It's up to 36 degrees on Saturday. Shanghai will see moderate rainfall through tomorrow, a low of 25 and a high of 32. Chongqing's getting a light rain tonight. It becomes overcast tomorrow. 23 for a low. It's up to 31 on Saturday. Nanchang will be cloudy tonight and tomorrow, a low of 26 and a high of 33. Last is getting cloudy conditions through tomorrow, a low of 14 and a high of 28 degrees Celsius. And that's it for this edition of the Beijing Hour. Making news today, China's expressed willingness to expand cooperation with Denmark as the foreign minister visits Northern Europe. The U.S. and Iran have been trading blame at the UN Security Council over the tense situation in the Strait of Hormuz. On behalf of the staff, this is Shane Bigham in the Chinese capital, hoping you'll join us for the next edition of the Beijing Hour and open a window to the world together.
The best military commander is not he who fights 100 battles and wins every one of them. The best military strategy does not lead to the desiccation of the enemy's capital city. Decoding the art of war will help you understand why there's no art in war and how Sun Tzu stayed undefeatable using the science of war, with fun stories and insightful breakdown of famous battles. Find Decoding the Art of War wherever you listen.
A poem for the Tibetan antelope, the gentle spirit of the Qinghai Seazong Plateau, spoken by voices from across the world. Every spring, female antelopes migrate hundreds of miles to Zhuonai Lake to give birth, as we build gentle passages for their journey.
Hello, little Tibetan antelope. Eyes opening to the light for the very first time.
To see a world in a grain of sand, and a heaven in a wild flower.
So much wonder calls for so much courage. But have no fear. The way home is right there, waiting for you.
From the snows of Kunlun to the winds of Tangula, 'tis the way home. 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 'Tis the way home The wilderness will teach me to be strong.
But the call of life itself never ceases.
A train runs toward the horizon. A road stretches through the wilderness.
The bridge that soars through the clouds is no barrier across the land, but a gateway to where I truly belong.
Tibetan antelope's hoofprints loosen the soil, letting snow melt sink into the earth.
Human presence passes through,
but we've never walked this land alone.